would like, we can begin, of course.
Okay. It's now. Hello, good morning. Dear the Have Lived Group members and special customers, thanks for joining our third webinar and our second online training. I would like to welcome our members from different regions and areas in the world. Thanks for taking your time, despite of the time zone. I also would like to welcome some of our special customers that are joining our webinar today. Andritz Hydro, Aeris Energy, Grupo Cobra, Hitachi ABB, Hyundai Steel, Chimera Chemicals, and WestRock. Sorry if I miss some of you guys that from different countries that are joining, but thanks for joining us. It's very important to have you on board. As we have a special guest today, we also give a short introduction about the group, what is the Have Lived Group and what we are doing. So we're basically a not-for-profit group specialized in heavy lift and heavy transport. So our members are based in different areas of the world. We're specialized in large-scale industrial project forwarding, crane operations, machinery installations and rigging, vessel chartering, port operations, oversized road transportation, engineering, aircraft charters, and barge operations. As you see here, we have around 60 members all over the world. So we are covered in different areas. And our core values are professionalism, just a second, reliability, local expertise, friendship, global coverage, and competence. Well, the idea of the group is that we join our forces to have the best local specialists and have lived. So power in unity, global group of local professionals is our motto. So that's our intention here to cooperate on projects worldwide. And here are you can see some pictures of projects handled by the Have Lived Group and its members in different countries and regions, different segments also, oil and gas, pulp and paper, energy or wind, power, yeah. So it's just some short pictures here that shows type of projects that we are doing. Yeah, and that's it. So for today, we have our training will be charter negotiation practices and their applicability to RFQ for project cargo. So we could spend more than 20 hours talking about that subject, but today we give just a short overview. And I would like to invite our today's presenter, Terezinha and Brandão. They are free to start. So Terezinha and Brandão, welcome. I will stop sharing my video. You can my screen, so you can just share your presentation. And please be welcome. And well, hope you enjoy. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send it on the chat. After the presentation, we will have some 10 minutes so we can clarify them. We hope that well, we enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Me? Okay.
Yeah, please, Terezinha.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Terezinha, but my nickname is Terry. Then you can call me Terry. I have worked as charters broker long time, some decades, okay? Charters broker is the one who works for the charters, looking the best opportunity possible for the cargo of the charters, okay? And we started to give a course 10 years ago about and the consultancy, and we make also lay time calculation for the companies that does not have a prepared team. Okay, then now Brandão.
Yeah, well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm not sure the times that you have at your countries, but we'd like to greet you and say that it's a pleasure for us to be here, sharing some of our knowledge, and we hope it's going to contribute to your business. What we are going to talk today, and that's what we discussed before presenting this webinar, is to share some of the practices that we have acquired along our career as brokers, as ship owners, that of course, not all of them are applicable to the business that you are dealing. Not, it depends on the cargo that you are working with, depends on the ship, the line, but understanding them might be very interesting and very useful for your business, because they are the methods, I apologize, the methods and the practices that are used by the ship owners when you talk about break bulk cargo, or even in this case, project cargo. So that's why we are trying to share. We will share with you these practices that we believe that will be useful for you. Because you see, one of the points that, well, hold on, because my, yeah, right. When contacting ship owners, we understand, and we have seen by our experience that some companies and professionals do not understand that there is a different language, there is a different communication when you talk with ship owners. And the question is, what's the best approach to ship owners for a successful negotiation? These are the two questions. And how does it affect the chances of being heard and respected? I mean being heard because it's different when you talk with a ship owner of break bulk cargo. And we must bear in mind that some practices of container business are not applicable to break bulk cargo. And we see that many companies and professionals, when they need to reinvent themselves, when they need to look for a new business, they look around and of course they see project cargo as a very attractive business, and it is really, it's very profitable, but it's not the same as containers. And they try to bring, or they understand they can use the same practice that they have in containers and can use with project cargo, which is not correct, because ship owners of break bulk cargo have a different modus operandi, especially when you talk about, when you deal with the opportunity they have. So when you talk with these kind of owner, you must have a different approach. And they do not have, you have to understand that these ship owners do not have a sales force, a sales team that talk with you in a, let's say, commercial way. In most of the case, you are going to be in contact with a captain, or sometimes with a very highly expert, technically oriented professional, and rather than commercially. They don't have the same commercial communication, and to talk with them requires a very technical familiarity with their segment. And the problem is that when they see that you do not have, you don't master these techniques, or you don't master the terminology, they tend to disregard the contact because you don't show expertise in this business. And why that? Of course, it might sound, why are those selective? It sound a little bit arrogant, but the problem is that break bulk is very high. It's a very highly specialized segment, and this demands time and energy for a captain or for the operational team, the experts, to check a cargo, to check it if it's viable, if it's workable or not, because there are many risks involved in this business. You sometimes have a complete vessel for your cargo, or a portion of it, and the space reserved not just like simple slots, but most of the cargo, most of the space of the ship is reserved for that, and demands sometimes extra costs just for one sole client. And sometimes sub-inducement calls. So they must check, they have to see the whole ship at once, at a time, and not part of it. So that's why it's so complex. And a very important thing, that's one of the reasons, you see, no show, I mean, a cargo that's not presented for loading might mean not just a few $1,000s as it happens in containers, but hundreds of $1,000s, hundreds of thousands, and even millions sometimes. We have had some experiences that with ships that have been booked, they showed up at the port and the cargo wasn't there, or the cargo was there but couldn't be loaded because there were some technical problems that prevented the ship to lift the cargo. So it requires a very good preparation, a very important study. So that's why you must come with them with all technical information in hands. There is no cargo rollover as you see in container. There's no such option, such option as cargo rollover when you talk about break bulk and especially about project cargo, because there is no next vessel. So a no-show might result for you, may result in for you as a shipper a dead freight, as in a dead freight, or for the owners a loss because they may not be able to recover the freight that they are claiming, the dead freight. So that's why it's so. I mean, they are so strict when they filter the offers or the inquiries that they receive. And in this case, showing lack of familiarity with break bulk market may damage your reputation. And the normal reasons for being ignored or let's say disregarded by the owners are excess of freight quotations. When you ask a lot of quotations, you are always asking for quotations, freight indications, but you never conclude a business. And when you approach the owners and you don't have sufficient information about the status of your cargo, the characteristics of the cargo, dimensions, weight, and so on, readiness, and they will ask you in the conversation, and you show that you are not aware of that. And non-comprehension of shipping terminology, which is different from container when you talk about break bulk cargo. And another thing, negligence in complying with deadlines. If they offer for you, or if you ask information, they give you the information or quotation, and you simply go elsewhere and start talking with somebody else, and you don't reply, you don't come back to them. So they normally tend to ignore these kind of contacts, this kind of approach. So mastering, I mean, having the information and knowing how to do that, how to apply, I mean, mastering chartering practices and its techniques may be useful to your connections and negotiations because it indicates professionalism and specialized knowledge. It makes owners feel confident that they are talking with the right professional. They know, I mean, they feel that you know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about. And it's going to reduce your mistakes and probabilities of mistakes during the negotiation. So it's important to understand. I said before, not for all the business that you are dealing with, because it depends on the cargo, depends on the ship. But even if you do not apply these techniques in all the cases, but if you have some information, if you know them, it's going to help in some cases, okay? And what you must check before our request for quotation. So before you go to a ship owner, what you have to have in hands, what you have to have in mind, so that you can start a conversation with the owners. Well, I understand that everybody knows very well your business, and this list here is very basic, but it's very important to repeat. Well, the type of cargo, that's going to indicate automatically which kind of requirements the owners will need. If they will need special crane, if they need what type of kind of stackway they will need on ship and so on, space and so on. It's a dangerous cargo because sometimes people do not understand that cargoes like trucks and other machinery might be dangerous because they may have residues of fuel oil, for example, or gas in their tanks. Details of the cargo, such as packing, quantity, weight, measurements, and so on, you know, especially if the cargo is stackable, and other points that will be very important for the owners to calculate the stowage plan, what the space they need for the cargo. And we know that every cargo, when you talk about project cargo, every cargo has a different specification. Loading port and discharging port, which kind of terminal? I mean, is it a public terminal or you require a special terminal? A geared vessel, do you need a geared vessel? Cargo load readiness, that's very important too. And you must have in your mind the freight target so that you can talk with the owners in the proper way. Another important point, is cargo firm or working? The first question that you're going to have from a ship owner when you approach asking for a quotation is the cargo firm or is it working cargo? That's crucial. You see, if you don't have this information, or depending on the information, if you give incorrect information, you are going to have a problem of reputation. So what is a firm cargo? Mind what you need for the transport, you have checked before, and you know what you have to have as a freight. A working cargo is a cargo that is still ongoing, and the negotiations are still ongoing and are subject to costs, including logistics. So that's why you go for a freight. You need a freight. And a firm cargo, unless you are running short of, when you talk about firm cargo, unless you are running short of time and you need to conclude your business, do not start offering your cargo. You see, because this might sound as a weakness to the market. You, first of all, you present your cargo and ask for a quotation. Let owners give their quotation. That's a normal practice in chartering. Let them give you their quotation, because what they have in mind as a freight might be lower, might be better than you have, especially when you're talking about tramp ships. A tramp ship sometimes comes to your region, to your country, to your port. They don't have any return cargo, so they just came for a special project, and they are open totally. So for them to compensate a ballast voyage, it's very important. So they may have a very competitive freight that you do not find on the regular lines. So let them talk, let them say what they need, what is their freight idea, because it might be very useful for you, okay? Our working cargo, well, then our working cargo is totally different. You don't have the firm cargo in hands to offer the owners, but in this case, you're going to need a freight indication. You have to have an idea before you start even conclude your business. So for that, we recommend that you build a good network that you may rely. I mean, when you need a freight indication, it's important to have a good network of partners, brokers, and owners that you may rely when you need a freight indication. When I mean partners, owners, and brokers, of course, we are not talking about in general. I mean, we are talking about contacts, not the company itself, but the contacts that you have inside these companies. That's something that you develop along the time, but it's important to build your network so that you may contact them informally and ask for a freight inquiry, for a quotation, a freight indication. And brokers, in this case, Terezinha was a broker for a long time. She was aware of the market during the time she worked there, and I was there too. I was a cargo and ship broker. And it's the brokers, they have a very good contact with both charterers and ship owners, so that they are well familiarized with the market. And a good channel, they have a good channel of communication with the owners, and they have a good feeling of the market, and they can provide you with a good idea of the freight trends in the market according to the volume, origin, and destination. They know the daily high of the ship. I mean, the daily high, we used to say daily high, we call daily high the cost of the ship when you take the ship in time charter, which reflect the real costs of the ship. So they know the trends of the market, the ship type and size. But you must bear in mind, that's very important, when you get a freight indication, that this is an indication as a broker only. That's what you're going to receive when you talk with a ship owner or with a broker. You are going to receive an indication as a broker only. It means that you cannot take this information and go to your client and give them as a firm freight offer and then come back to the broker and say, okay, what is the ship? because they will say, come on, I just gave you an indication. Before I give you a firm offer, you must come with a firm cargo. So, and we have seen, Terezinha and I have seen many situations that clients or freight forwarders or the companies involved, they get just an indication and they take it as for granted, which is not correct, okay? When you start a firm negotiation, so I now pass my word to Terezinha. She's going to talk about this subject, okay? Terezinha?
Okay, yes. Well, if you have a problem with my explanation, okay, because of my English, we will be glad to explain or to clarify later, okay? Starting firm negotiation. I, as a chartered broker, for example, go to the market and ask for a firm offer. We receive a firm offer from the owner and we reply. When we reply to this firm offer, we are making a counter offer, okay? Or not a counter offer, but we ask for a better freight, better condition, for example. In this stage, we are already negotiating. We are in negotiation, okay? Brandão? It is usual in chartering to negotiate by telephone. We can discuss over the phone, we can agree, disagree, ask something better, and then we formalize it via email. Then we put everything we have talked via email. Negotiations, ethics and consequences. When we start a negotiation with an owner, we cannot even think to negotiate with somebody else. We follow the negotiation with this owner, okay? Because if you go to another two, you may be trapped by your own actions and end up committed with both. And in the end, you can receive a dead freight invoice. And you know that we take long time to build our reputation, but we can lose it, we can destroy it in a minute. Well, here we have a negotiations step. Then, as I said, I go to the market, we ask for an offer, the owner comes with an offer, we make a counter offer. In this stage, we are negotiating the main terms of our cargo, the main terms of our booking. Every cargo has its own request, and every charter has its own request, okay? Then we are negotiating the main terms, and we reach a stage that we book on subs, subject to stand, subject to shippers and the receivers approval. After this stage, we make the fixture recap. Fixture recap is the obligation of the charter or the charter's broker to make it, the fixture recap. After the fixture recap on subs, okay, we go to as charter's broker, I go to the charters to the shippers and the receivers to ask the reconfirmation if the cargo is firm, if the cargo is there, okay? And of course, after that, we go to the owners and we lift the subs. When we lift the subs, we are clean fixed. In chartering, there is no need to have a charter, sign the charter party or sign some documents. As from the moment that you lift the subs, you are clean fixed. And if from now something goes wrong, you must pay dead freight. The next stage is to make contract. Brandão. The contract, as I said, every charter has his own request. Then the charter must be elaborated by the charterer, okay? Because if you have no charter party, have no booking note, the charter is broken, can help the charter to make it, to build up this, to elaborate the contract. Because if you receive the contract from the owner, you have to read the contract with magnified glass. And it's more comfortable for you if you have your own contract, because you know what you need for your cargo, you know what you need, okay, regarding the port difficulties, everything you know about your cargo. The owners, of course, you submit your contract to the owner, okay? And the owner will say yes or no, will negotiate, but it's up to you to have your contract. You have to request it. Well, a clean and practical method to convey the negotiation. You receive a firm offer from the owner, and you come back to him in a basis accept, okay? Then everything that you have from the owner's offer and you accept, then you put aside. You do not repeat in your negotiation, in this your counter offer. Then you will write down just the conditions that you have to modify at your own, okay, as you can accept, okay? Then example, thanks for your offer, which we accept following. Because if you, we have received, Brandão can contribute to it, this, in our course, a participant, a student, okay, but he is manager, okay, in a company where he works. And he came back to the owner, he counter offered to the owner with, yes, okay, in red color. Then, okay, can you do it? But at the side of the condition that the owner sent to you. Do you have, Brandão, this email to show to them?
Yes, I do, but yes, I do. Just hold on. Yeah.
This is not a clean work.
I'm going to find and I show you later, Terezinha, because I don't think I don't have problem. But what happened is that he, if you have 20 messages like this with yes, I agree, no, I don't agree, I would like to change this and that, at the end of the negotiation, to make your recap, it's going to be very difficult because you have to pick here and there all the information, all the modifications that occurred during your negotiation. So the method we use in chartering is just like this. You only continue the negotiations with the terms that you do not agree. The others, you just put it out, as Terezinha said. And because the other way is very confused. And we see it very often, people, a negotiation like this. And to make a recap at the end, the chance of mistakes are very big because you may omit something, okay?
Next. Okay, then as we said, okay, we compile in a separate file the terms that we accept, and it will help us to make the recap of main terms, which is recapitulation. Then it shows to the other party, to the owner, that you knows what you're talking about. You understand, as Brandão said. If you show that you do not understand it, the owners will not give attention to you. This is the email that we were talking about.
So that's not a clear way of working, because you can imagine after 20 messages like this, what do you have to search in all the messages and see what has been agreed, what happened after that message. So this is not the best way to work with ship owners. That's going to be confused to them, and they will probably tell you, or they will probably see you as a newcomer in the market that has no experience with the business, okay? That's not a good practice in chartering, okay?
Well, not every time the negotiation runs smooth. Sometimes there is some problem that you have to, I don't know, leave. But you cannot leave one negotiation without advising the other party. For example, I am in a freight level that we cannot increase, we cannot move on 55 fields. And the owners come with 58, and you know you cannot increase it, and you repeat your okay? This you advise it to the owner. Well, this is my fixing level. You send to the owner, and the owner come to you again 58, and then you say, now is take or leave it. In this case, you are giving the chance to the owner that you will let the negotiation, you will decline, but you have at least to give a chance to the other party to come to your level and finalize it with a fixture, okay? Well, here we have, okay, 12 points that you must have in your, or at least should have, okay, in your main terms recap. First, vessel details. The maximum details you can have it from the owners about the vessel details is good. Cargo description, as Brandão said, okay, mainly you see if it's part cargo, full cargo, and the one important detail is how much your cargo is stackable, or if it's not stackable. Freight rate. In this stage, of course, you are already, you have agreed the freight, then you write down freight rate. Freight basis, if it's fees or full liner terms, if it's fees low. Freight payment conditions. In charter is usual, you negotiate with 5 banking days after signing release bills of lading, okay? Then you pay the freight 5 banking days after signing release bills of lading, for example. Commission, if any. When you go to the market, you will ask for a freight. You must inform the owners if there is some commission involved, because the owners will calculate the freight included that commission. Port of loading, port of discharge, okay? If it's charter's berth, you must give information about the charter's berth, if transshipment is allowed or not. Laycan or shipping period. What is this? Laycan you use if it's fuels basis, okay? And the shipping period if it's full line terms basis, then you will put in your recap what you have agreed with the owner. Load discharge rate. If it's fuels, if you have a late time, okay? Or you have load discharge rate CQD, customary quick dispatch. Then it will depend on the shipping terms that you have booked. Demurrage, if it's fuels, if there is late time. Detention, if it's fuels and you have booked the CQD, or if you book the full liner terms, okay, also detention is applicable according to the shipping terms. Taxes, exchange, extra insurance, if any, if the vessel is older than 20 years, for example, okay, it could be that in your commercial agreement it is not allowed, then extra premium will be charged, then you have to put down what will pay for this extra, if it's owners or if it's charters. Tax dues on cargo freight, the same, okay, for charters, tax dues on vessel for owners. This is very recommended because some shippers do not accept some to be responsible for some port taxes. Then you inform to the owner that you will not pay for such port tax, that it is their responsibility, but they transfer the responsibility to the owner. Equipments, you must let the owner know about the special lifting point of your cargo. Material, lashing, damage, who will pay for, okay, if it's charters, if it's owners, how your cargo will be delivered to the vessel with the saddles, or it will be built in the on board, okay? Maximum information you have about the loading of your cargo. And subject to, as we mentioned, we work in the main terms, and then in the end you put subject to, then everything that is above, okay, in the main terms condition will be valid since you lifted this service, okay? This is very recommended, and it is subject to shippers, receivers approval, substand. Substand is subjected to enough merchandise. Then in this case, service must be just from the side of the charters, not the side of the owner. For example, if the owner send it to you an offer with this with sub-inducement, then you have not a firm offer, okay? There is one sub from the owner, then you have to ask to owner to lift their sub in the next counter. And the contract, as we mentioned, okay, every charter, charter has to have their own contract that is more comfortable. We know that liners, okay, owners, usually enforce, okay, you to accept their contract. You can accept, no problem, but you make the changes that you need. Please bear in mind that one contract is an agreement between the parties, okay? And you cannot be responsible for what is not your responsibility, okay? Then you change the contract that the owner sent to you. Owner's agent is good, you put down in the end, okay? After the end of the main terms, because you have all the information that you need, okay, for your booking. Owner's agents or charter's agent, if you had the right to name the agent, stevedores, port captain. I used to say that port captain is my eye, okay, on my cargo at the port. It is very good if you name a port captain, okay, because you are in the commercial, as I was, okay, in commercial. Then when you fix a vessel, then it is operation problem. You are now negotiating another vessel. Then if you have a port captain, really is comfortable for you. Well, now I give the words to Brandão.
Okay, thanks, Terezinha. Well, when you elaborate the contract, well, bear in mind, as Terezinha said, that contract does not need to be signed. We have seen many situations that the contract is signed sometimes months after the cargo is loaded. So officially, if you are putting them in by email or by fax, if you still use fax, of course, it's going to be a fixture. You don't need to have the contract signed. But when you prepare the contract, you must take into account some points. You must show to your party, to the other side of the contract, what alterations you made, in the contract. So when you have to delete a word or a paragraph, do not simply delete as you do in the Word. You strike through. You leave it just like this, because you must show to the other party, to the other side, what alterations you have done, okay? Which alterations you have done. And if you insert some word or some paragraph, you insert in italic, like this. You can see in these two situations here, we have 48 hours running. We strike through, sorry. And the additional words that we inserted in the contract, which weren't there, we put in italic, okay? So, and if you have additional clauses that could not be inserted in the normal form of the contract, you can have an addendum to the contract. In this addendum, you're going to put the additional clauses that were not foreseen in normal form, and any other alteration that you had to do in the clauses that could not be done in the form because of lack of space. So it was better to rephrase it, to redo it in a different way. So you put in the rider, and it's that we call this addendum as rider clauses. And of course, it's very important to insert in the front page of the form of the contract that these rider clauses are additional to the contract, and they must be incorporated to the contract, and most importantly, they prevail, they supersede the printed form in case of conflict, okay? That's one important thing. We normally talk about shipping period during the during the contracts of online. But when you talk with tramp ships, the probability of having a Fios cargo, Fios Tramps cargo is big, because they do not know your port. They are not going to undertake any responsibility for liner trans, for loading and discharge operations. So you normally book on Fios. It's common. And in this case, a laycan, it's important to understand, is a period of dates, a period of time agreed between the ship owner and the charterers to position the ship at the port, to present the ship at the port. The ship, it's important to understand, ship may arrive at any day of the laycan without penalties. Suppose that you have laycan from the 1 to 10th of August, or September, October. So during these 10 days, the ship owner may arrive without any penalties, either on the first day or the last day, no problem. But they cannot be exceeding the canceling date, because in this case, the charters will have the option of canceling the contract unless there is an extension clause agreed in the charter party. But you must understand that, okay, while the ship may arrive at any day of the laycan, the cargo must be ready on the first day the ship arrives. Otherwise, the vessel has no penalties, but the ship may have penalties if the cargo is not ready. Because if the cargo is not ready, the charterers will be subject to demurrage in case they exceed the lay time allowed. The lay time allowed is the time allowed for the ship, for the charterers to work. That's the lay time. Lay time is a number of days and hours allowed for the charterers to carry out the discharge or loading operations without any extra charge. So they have this number of days and hours are based on the cargo, quantity of cargo divided by the loading and discharge rate they have to perform per day. And that's very usual on Fios cargos, unless you have a different agreement, okay? The other agreement that you may have, well, first of all, continuing about the lay time. The lay time starts from the moment the ship gives the notes of readiness, which is the information that ship is ready to load or discharge. And it starts, as we say in chartering here, WIPON, and WICON, which is an abbreviation of whether in port or not the lay time starts, whether in berth or not the lay time starts, and whether in free pratique or not the lay time is going to start, and whether customs cleared or not. So bear in mind that when you have a lay time, it doesn't matter if the ship is berthed or not. The lay time is going to start to count, okay? And if the charterers exceed the lay time allowed, they will pay a demurrage that has been agreed in the contract. Depending on the terms agreed, a dispatch also may be agreed. It's a kind of compensation if they finished the operation before. Dispatch normally agreed half the value of the demurrage. And we have finally customary quick dispatch, which has no lay time. It's Fios terms, but what you have to comply with is with the customs of the port. You have to have cargo ready and for loading or transport for discharging, all the conditions for discharging, clearances, including as fast as vessel can receive in case of loading, and as fast as vessel can discharge. By the way, these clauses are also in the CONLINE, the same contract booking note or bill of lading that you normally have in your part cargo. You have to have, in your project cargo, you have to have cargo for loading as fast as vessel can receive, as fast as vessel can discharge. Otherwise, you are going to be subject to detention. That's the charge that's very clearly informed in the CONLINE bills of lading and shipping and booking notes. If there are interruptions, stoppages because of lack of cargo or because of any fault from charter side, you're going to be subject to detention. Detention is a value also, just like demurrage, that is paid per day or pro rata. It means that if you don't have if you just spend 2 hours of stoppages, you're going to pay for 2 hours, equivalent to 2 hours from the total amount of detention agreed. And in the original concept of liner terms, and this is very important, charters are not responsible for delays in berthing. and irregular ports of call. And this is a problem that we face in Brazil. The owners are charging it's liner terms sometimes, and the owners are charging the charters for the delays in berthing, which is not their responsibility because everything is organized by the owners. The berthing and the operations is organized by the owners. It's a regular call, it's a regular port of call. So there shouldn't be any chance of delays in berthing. It only happens in this case when it is fees terms. So the only acceptable detention charge for berthing delay would be if you have an extra call, or if you require from the owners that the cargo is loaded in a different berth other than the berth they usually use. So in this case, it would make sense. That's it.
They also, Brandão, they also charge for swell.
Yes, anything, and all stoppages, which is not there, it should be your responsibility if you are working on full liner terms. Well, this is the presentation that we had to share with you. Of course, it's only part, let's say, just a very little part of what we could explain to you about chartering. And the idea, again, for those who arrived recently, not in the beginning, from the beginning, we would like to say that not always you can apply these methods, these techniques, but we understand, Terezinha and I, that it's very important to understand these techniques because when you talk with ship owners, especially when you're talking with ship owners of tramp ships, they have a different way of speaking, a different way of dealing, and you must be familiarized with these techniques and expressions and so on. I can even show you, if you need later on, one example of a reply from a ship owner, a tramp ship owner, and you will see that they have a special way of communication. They apply special terms, and if they feel that you are not from the market, I mean, you do not understand them, you tend to be disregarded. Murilo, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Brandão and Terezinha. Well, as I said, I think at Fox Brazil we did this course more than maybe 3 or 4 times with our teams. And every course we have about 16 or 20 hours. So it's really a lot of things to discuss, to talk. I'm sure we all are involved on project business and I mean project cargo, project logistics, and chartering. And at least here in Brazil, we don't learn it on the university or any technical school. I don't know how it's in your countries, but I think we all learn with troubles. So in the past, and it can cost a lot of money. So that's why we decided to do it. And I think it's very important to know in every single details how it works. So, well, right now is time for questions. So we still have 10 minutes before we leave. And of course, if we have if you want to go deep on liner terms, on some of those subjects, we can organize another webinar about it. But right now it's time for questions. If you have any questions, just yeah, please just let us know so we can start. Maybe I have one question here, which is let me see here about the lake can. So on project cargo, we talk always to have lift vessels or have lift owners, and they always talk about lake can. I saw some of your slide. You talk about shipping period or something different. So and lake can is like this now. So for example, we have a vessel right now at the port. The lake can was from 15 to 20, and we arrived right now on the 17. We're just arriving right now at the port. So, and of course they want to charge us the detention. So yeah, and we agreed full liner terms with them. So should we pay or not? For example, how do you see that?
Yeah, normally on the online booking note, there is no mention about shipping period. I mean, if you take the online, the original form from Binco, which is the example used by all the ship owners with their adjustments, of course, You don't talk about shipping period. There is no mention of this kind of thing, but we have to differ. When you see when there is a laycan, first of all, laycan is not for liner terms, it's for fields cargo. What is fields cargo? Free in, out. It means that the owners are not responsible for loading and discharge. So there is a laycan only in these cases. When you talk about laycan, it's just like this. The vessel must arrive on that date, and you must have the cargo ready. If the cargo is not ready during the laycan, the owner may have the option of agreeing with the charterers to wait for the cargo, but charging for demurrage. In this case, there is no detention, or unless you have a customary quick dispatch, and or he may leave after the canceling day and charge you that freight. So that's the basic information about the laycan. So he has to wait until the last day of the laycan to leave the port. And this is the fundamental difference, because in shipping period, it's totally different. There is a window for you to understand it better. And the vessel must be in that window. If the vessel arrives later, you don't have the commitment with because the ship didn't arrive in time. But if you do not present the cargo for loading when the vessel requires, and it's very clear in the bill of lading of the other chart owners like BBC, Turco, and so on. If you do not present the cargo ready and for loading when the ship demands, and they will require the cargo without prior notice, there is no notice of readiness for that. In this case, if you do not present, they may either wait for the cargo, but if they prefer, they can leave the port at any time without prior notice. They will not wait until the last day of the laycan. If it was a laycan, they can leave at any moment without prior notice, and they will charge you dead freight. They will charge detention charges and any other expenses that they had with the ship alongside. So that's the fundamental difference between laycan and shipping period. While in the laycan, the owners wait until the last day to declare that freight. In the shipping period, the owner may leave at any moment and charge you that freight. So you must be careful. And they can renew the shipping period. In some booking notes, it's written there as many times as they wish. Of course, they have to agree with the charters if they agree. But in the GenCon charter party, when you talk about fields, normally it's only once. They can, if they delay the ship, they can only ask for extension only once. Okay.
Okay. Do you have any other questions? Well, I have some others if you like. I don't know if some of you want to unmute and ask for a question.
If I may interrupt, if anyone wants to ask a question, they may use the raise hand option on the Zoom, and I will see it immediately, so I can unmute your microphones and you can ask your question. You can also use the chat box. For example, we have one from Total Movements in the chat. It was sent to me privately. Let me just copy it to everyone to see on the chat box. Give me a few seconds, please. Okay. I have sent the question to the chat box for everyone to see. And if anyone else likes to ask a question, please raise your hand and I will unmute your microphone immediately.
I couldn't see the whole question because it was only partly showed. Can you read for us, please?
Yeah, the question is, in general, we have noticed that owners/agents always declare /send not immediately on berthing, for example, before they complete clearance and port health office formalities for the vessel. Is this right? And also, should we send a refutal if we receive such NORs, but never we have received an intention notice for that period till date?
It is usual if you're talking about FIOS terms, because in this case, as you will see on the GenCon, in the GenCon charter party, and I think I showed it in one of the slides too, the notice of readiness on FIOS terms may be given whether the vessel is in berth or not, whether the vessel is in port or not, whether the vessel is in free pratique or not, and whether the vessel is custom cleared or not. But in this case, it's a fuse contract that has been agreed for example, lay time. What's a lay time? It's a time allowed for loading or discharge. And in this case, the lay time
without extra freight.
Yeah, without extra freight. It's a free time, kind of grace time that you have following a discharge. But since it's fuse terms, it's your responsibility to arrange for berthing, for gangs, and for all the arrangements for loading and discharge. So it's your responsibility. That's why the owners impose a lay time allowed that you have to comply with. And it's not their fault if they arrive and your berth, charter's berth, is not ready for loading or for discharge. So the lay time starts to count. It's correct. But we see that there are many confusions about lay can, lay time, notes of readiness when you talk about full liner terms. We have seen some charges of, for example, of detention that are showing in the report, in the timesheet, lay can. Makes no sense, lay can in full liner terms. And demurrage, there is no demurrage in full liner terms. You see, there is no lay time in full liner terms, and sometimes they show it. So it's a big confusion. So it makes no sense, because in full liner terms, you talk about detention, and only, that's the classical one, only if there is a delay when the vessel is alongside, not at roads. At roads, it's not your business, unless you have agreed, as we said, a special berth or a special call. In this case, yes, because you ordered the berth, you asked the owners to go to that port. In this case, they may have the right to apply for a detention waiting for the berthing. But if it's a regular port of call, makes no sense at all to charge for waiting time at roads, because it's their responsibility, differently from the fuse terms. It's their responsibility to arrange the berth that they usually call, where they usually have their cargoes, and to provide gangs and so on. So you do not have any intervention. You cannot intervene in this when you talk about full liner terms. You do not arrange, you do not organize it. It's the owner, okay? I'm not sure if it's clear.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
We have another question from Reagan Watson of Barnhart. He's asking, what is the FIOS acronym definition?
All right, we can explain to you. There are basic shipping terms when you talk about freight. I mean, the freight with the owners give you, let's talk about full containers. Full container ships, they are the traditional, the classic full liner terms. All what you pay when you pay the freight is included. You do not need to worry about gangs to load, lashing to fix the cargo on the ship. It's all their responsibility. So these are the terms of the line. It came from the times when there were no containers, and all the cargoes that you see in containers today were loaded break bulk. So it was just like a supermarket. You could find a lot of cargo, different cargo in the market, in the hold of the ships, on the general cargo ships, the break bulk ships. And so you could not put your own stevedore in there for loading one container, or not one container, but one bundle, two bundles, 100 tons. So they did everything. So this is why we have full liner terms. It's the terms of the line. But when you have some differences, a different type of cargoes, you may have a variation. Second variation is a FIOS. Free, when you see this word free in freight conditions, it means that the freight does not include the one part of the transport. For example, free in, it means that the expenses of loading are not included in the freight. And it's free to owners. It's free to owners to all the expenses of loading. And free out, it means that the discharge expenses are not included too. So the owners are free of expenses of this
Load
Yes.
and storage LSD.
Yes, and including also not only loading and discharging, but in case of loading, you have to worry about lashing. What is lashing? To tie the cargo on the ship, to use wood to fix it, to build cradles, saddles. That's all your responsibility if it's field terms. And you have those variations. For example, FISLO, free in, line it out. So in this case, loading, free from the to the owner, don't pay. And line it out, yes, included in the freight. Or line it in, free out. The owners pay the loading, but don't pay the discharge. So it means that the freight includes these expenses or not includes. So these are the difference. So the base car, full owner terms, feels, full owner terms, feels is just the opposite of full owner terms, and the variations, line it in, free out, or free in, line it out. I hope the explanation is clear. If you have any doubts, please ask again. It will be a pleasure to explain again.
Okay, we have a few more questions. Mr. Rajesh Vaidyanathan from Total Movements is saying, he's saying, is there a clause that we can insert in the BN that will ensure that owners will have all the necessary gears like spreaders, shackles, etc., needed for the lifting and lashing?
Yes, if it's full owner terms, and you must make clear that all material, well, normally they, for example, Gen contracted party or the contracts, they specify that the vessel must dispose, not dispose, but to make available the material that they have on board. But when you talk about full owner terms, even if it's not full owner terms, it's fuels, you must, there is a point there in the place there in the Gen contracted party that says, will gears, ship's gears be used or not? You have to say it clearly to the owners. In this case, you have to complete that space with, yes, it will be used. And lashing material is something, or the materials that you mentioned, it depends on the shipping term. If you fix full owner terms, it's your responsibility to use. If you book full owner terms, it's owner's responsibility to provide all equipment. If you fix fields, it's your responsibility. But even on fields terms, you may negotiate. When I say put a clause there, as you suggested, of course, you cannot just put a clause. You have to negotiate with the owners that they will provide all the material, because sometimes they have it on board. So you can negotiate it. No matter if it's fields terms, you can insert, you can agree with the owners that they will provide the lashing. And it's very common. And the opposite is very common too. Sometimes you book full owner terms, but the owners say, I don't have expertise with your cargo. You will provide the cradle, you will provide all the material to put it on board, because I don't have expertise with your cargo. And that it comes also with the hook to hook. Hook to hook means that, okay, I do this part of the business. That on shore, it's your business, because I don't have expertise with lashing points. I don't have expertise with center of gravity. This is not my, I don't have this expertise with your cargo. You know it. I'm not sure if it's clear, but the point is that you can negotiate it. You can put in your contract any clause, even if it's fees or not, you can put, but you have to negotiate, okay?
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Terry, Paula, and thank you, XCOM. I appreciate it.
Mr. Murat Mekdash is asking, need to have a calculation mode of the dead freight, DID freight.
The dead freight is a charge that is based on the freight that you agreed. So if you load, for example, if you do not load the whole cargo, you pay the whole freight for the cargo, for the freight that you agreed. If you load part of the cargo, it will be equivalent to the part of cargo that has not been loaded. So you can negotiate it. Of course, there is a dead freight, and we have seen that not only that freight, but demurrage too. After loading, I've seen that, and I understand that you have already experienced that. These are kind of the kind of problem. You can negotiate. Terezinha also negotiated dead freights before. You can negotiate, but technically speaking, they can charge legally what has been agreed.
And one more question, Mr. Daniel Segard of Lamberix is asking, in case on free out, what about the demurrage charges if striking the port of discharge?
Yes, if you have agreed lay time, if there is an agreement for lay time and you have exceeded the lay time, you no matter, it doesn't matter if it's loading or discharge, you will pay the demurrage according to the contract if you have agreed, okay? But if you have agreed customary quick dispatch, there is no demurrage, because the difference between demurrage, quick lay time and CKD, let's say customary quick dispatch, is that if you have a lay time, you must finish before the lay time expires. If you expire, you pay the demurrage. No matter if you had delays in between, if you along with the operation, there is no problem, provided that you finish the operations before the lay time expires. During the customary quick dispatch or full end terms, you do not have a lay time. You do not have a target that you have to comply with. But any delays along the operations are subject to detention. You don't have a target, you don't have a deadline to finish, but if there is any delay along with the operations, because of your fault, of course, you are subject to detention.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah,
of course,
cargos, delay, documents.
But you have to understand which kind of agreement you made, which kind of contract you made, because this is going to depend if there is a demurrage or dispatch or detention and so on. But it's applicable to both sides if it's agreed, both loading and discharge. And if, by the way, if you, for example, you received from your partner a cargo that has been loaded on the other side of the world and comes to you, and he fixed it, those conditions of the demurrage there, you have to comply because he agreed. Your partner or the other side of the charters there agreed a condition that is applicable to both loading and discharge. And if they agreed there with the owners, you will inherit those conditions. There is no way to escape, okay? If there is a demurrage agreed, you have to pay for the demurrage. You cannot say, well, but it's not being agreed by me. Yes, it has been agreed by the charter and the owners, okay?
Okay, and one last question, I think. Mr. Dimitris Yetnins is saying, in case there is a vessel with own lifting facilities, what will be the conditions of vessel loading time? Does it need to be calculated, quoted by port, or still by charter party?
It's defined by charter party, but the charter party normally reflects the loading rates and discharge rates of the port. And of course, when you are negotiating, Terezinha knows it very well. We were partners, I mean, not partners, but she was on the side of the charter and I was on the side of the ship owner before. That's why we have this friendship. And we had a very big fight every time we were fixing a cargo. Of course, a normal professional fight, but we did. She was always pushing the rates down and I was always pushing the rates up because for the owners, it's more interesting to have the ship finished as soon as possible. But for the charters, they need to have a kind of margin for working in case of, let's say, anything that is unpredicted problem. So they need to have a buffer so that they can work without risks of demurrage. So you have to agree at that moment. Sometimes it does not reflect exactly the possibilities of the loading and discharge ports rates of the port, but you try your best to keep your safety margin so that if there is any delay, you are covered. And the owners will also push as much as possible up because they want to make the ship completed as soon as possible. For them, it's not interesting to have ship stopped, but normally reflects the loading of the port, the rates of the port. What I suggest is that you contact, when you are negotiating or before negotiating the cargo, you contact your operator or a company, an operator that you know, and ask them, what are the rates or the time that you need for completing this type of cargo, that type of cargo, and that is going to be the base for your negotiation. So you can calculate like this, but once it's fixed in the charter party, you must comply with. So the moment to talk about it is before, not afterwards, because afterwards it's already signed and agreed.
Okay, that's all the questions I see right now, at least in the chat box. So.
Yeah, perfect. Right. So maybe we can finish, Andreas, and thank you again, Roberto, Brandão, Terezinha, thank you very much. Thank you all for us to joining us, heavily through members and customers. If you like to make a picture, I don't know how you can manage because we have like 63 participants. Maybe you, Andreas.
I'm taking pictures right now from as much people as I can, to be honest.
Okay. Okay, so should we make something or like say it like this or?
Okay, let's all give a big smile. Ready?
Okay, let's go.
Okay, I took another one. Perfect.
Okay. So thank you very much, and well, wish you a good rest of the week, and well, a good weekend for Middle East tomorrow, and well, we'll see you next time. Hopefully, yeah, in November. Yeah. So next time, so we organize another one. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.